suggested, and I think he said, let's, he said if it hadn't been such a bad year, we could say what good things had happened in 2020. And we decided to try and do that anyway. Now, I think Tim sent it out as what we've learned in 2020. And wouldn't it be nice if those two things were the same? Good things and what we learned. Anyway,
All I learned.
Go ahead.
That's all I learned is the good things anyway.
Well, that's smart. That's really smart of you.
That's the only thing I can remember anyway.
Okay. Jim said that I could represent him and tell what he thought was good about 2020. He said 2020 has been awesome for him. He's heard that there are people that are worried and scared and have to go on drugs and try to commit suicide and a bunch of stuff. Not for him. It's been wonderful for him. He's not afraid of the virus and he doesn't have to go to church as often, and he can just do what he wants. And so 2020 has been a wonderful year for Jim. Do we have Clinton?
He's joining right now.
Okay.
This mask is a hippopotamus. I told Tiffany I wanted a hippopotamus mask, and so she got me one.
Well, something good happened to you this year then, didn't it?
Yeah.
All right. Do we have Clinton with us?
Looks like it.
He's still connecting. At least Kim got his hippopotamus for Christmas.
Yeah.
So does it make you feel better? Feel like a hippo?
I feel real good in it.
Okay.
I look better in it than without it.
Clinton, are you with us?
He's still connecting to audio. He's still working on it.
All right. Well, Paul, then I was going to have Clinton go first, but since he's still connecting, let's have you go. Let you start.
All right. Well, I guess my one of the first things I thought of this year is there has not been nearly as many sports that have taken up our time and the efforts of people, and so that's been kind of downgraded to where I guess I might be like my dad. That's not the most important thing in my life. And but the other thing I think is taking church meetings for granted. I think that it was nice to be able to come home and have sacrament meeting in our homes. And seeing that the prophet was ready for that, prepared us for that, to be able to do that, and the foresight, I guess, that's there, and I guess it's a testimony of revelation that has made that happen. And and I guess the understanding that meeting together often is important. We hadn't had any meetings, priesthood meetings, and we kept thinking we ought to do something. And so we decided that it was about time we had something, whether it's virtual. And so we did a in-person, and we only had about 8 there. And then the virtual, we broadcasted on Zoom. But it was interesting and touching the first time we did that. I hadn't realized how much I missed being there, having a gospel discussion with the brethren. Like I say, it was, I guess, touching to me to do that. We've done it several times since. Well, we've done it since, I guess, the end of October. And I guess I'm getting back to where we were. It doesn't seem quite as touching to me. I guess we're used to it again. But I think that's one of the things we've noticed. The meeting together, there is some strength, and so I think just realizing that the things that we've missed and the difficulties that some have more of a difficulty than others, as I've met in some of the people's homes or at the door, realize that there's it hasn't made a big change in my life. Times have gone on. There's been some things that are, kind of a pain, but some people it has affected their lives dramatically, and their ability to communicate and be connected with people.
All right, thank you, Paul. Choose someone. Oh, you're on mute now.
On mine, it looks like it's Roy and Joe is the next one.
Okay.
Really? Well, I can't remember anything bad, so I guess it was all good.
Not really. I really haven't minded this at all because we haven't really done a lot different, except we've been more, haven't traveled as much because we just went to March for Leah's baptism, and that's been the only it's been kind of nice to stay at home, and if we go to the store, there's not very many people, and it's just not, it's a lot less pressure on life. And I don't have my music groups anymore. I retired from the county a couple weeks ago, and sent an email to my boss and said I'm finally going to retire for good.
And what were you doing that you retired?
Well, with the county, I was a music instructor through the senior center.
Oh,
Got paid for it, and then I was on the staff and helped run the senior center, which, but I did it for 12 years. And so 12 years there and 8.5 years at RC Willey and 21.5 years at the phone company. And it's probably time I retired, I guess. But we've really enjoyed having sacrament. Roy's been the only brethren, and the rest have been the sisters in the building. But even now that we can go back to church, we still have it here. There's a couple of them that are quite deaf, and I can turn my computer up higher for them, and they can, we do it on Streamline, and they can hear better and enjoy sacrament better being here with us. And they're both in their 90s, these two sisters, but they sure have enjoyed just staying here. And then, we watch it on Streamline, and then we turn it off and have sacrament. But that's been really enjoyable. And before we had Streamline, we would just have about a 20 to 30 minute sacrament all together. And we would just pick one every Sunday to maybe read scriptures or come follow, or whatever that person wanted to do, and it was just really nice. We'd make them short, and we'd wear a mask and social distance and that type thing. We didn't, we only allowed so many to come. There was a lot of them that wanted to come, but we just kept it down, to a minimum there. But it really hasn't changed our life much. I think we've just finally slowed down a little, and it's been really nice. Roy's memory's gotten much worse, and his scar tissue on his brain and his heart and all that stuff. But Long as I bug him every day and keep him going and make sure he gets his pills and showers and dogs walked and all that stuff. He's griping at me all the way, but keeps him going, keeps him going. And I said, as long as you don't run away, if you start running away, then I can't do it anymore. But
And some days she wishes I would run away. Say, hey, just leave me
Yeah.
alone for a while.
yeah, I sometimes I'll say, hey, I need some downtime. Go visit a neighbor or go check on so and so. Or sometimes I'll put him to bed and I'll go check on other neighbors. But we really like living here because sometimes he gets confused and can't remember where to go and what to do. But everybody in here takes care of him. Sometimes
That's good.
I'll come bringing him to me and say he couldn't remember where you were or something. But so far it's worked out really, really nice here.
Good.
The dogs definitely love him. They drive their owners crazy when he doesn't get there on time. But so
Thanks, Joe.
it's been good for us.
Thanks, Joe. Let me just insert something here. We all know that we're talking about the Corona 19, COVID-19 virus. If this happens to be on, if Tim puts it on YouTube for history, I just want to make reference to the fact that we're referring to the life changes that happened in our country because of the supposed pandemic and the shutdowns and the restrictions and the illnesses, the people that have suffered because of it. Okay, Joe, choose someone.
Oh, Kim.
Tim Knapp or Kim Andrus?
Yeah, Kim Andrus. You got you're on mute there. Where's Tiffany? Take it off mute. Not. Oh, yeah,
Mute.
there you are.
Okay, Tiffany helped me out. I didn't learn much, but except that old age is not for sissies. I'd heard that before. Now I know what they mean. But the pandemic, Marcy informed me I'd had it because she had it. And I was sick before her. And I said, well, I wasn't sick. And she said, well, you had a headache. And that's what I got. And I said, yeah, I did have that. I said, I thought it was an allergy. I sneezed and then I got a sinus headache and that lasted for a day and then it was all right. No, I'm not scared of the pandemic anymore. And but she was giving blood and they made her test and she went in and she was positive. So they said, well, now you can't come give any blood until you get out of quarantine at your house. And then we'll give you $120 instead of just $30 or whatever it was they were giving her. So they did, and they tested her and she had a lot of immunity. So she got a lot of money for her blood. I said, well, I'll sell my blood for that much. And they said, no, they didn't want my blood. So I'm just grateful for what I got. And I just know that the sacrament is pretty cool because as long as you take the sacrament, nothing bad happens to you. If you fall down, get hurt, well, you live. So I don't want to be without the sacrament anymore. You know, it might be fatal if I don't take it. So nothing else has really changed. The pandemic, maybe I had that the whole time. Maybe I didn't have a stroke at all. Nothing changed much.
Sam, is it
Tim. Thank you. Choose someone else.
I guess Roy or Ben or Clint.
I thought Roy did his.
Okay, then,
Okay, let's go with Clint and then Ben. Or
okay.
no,
Yep.
no, we'll go with Clint and then let Ben choose.
Okay. Roy can remember some things for a few
Yeah.
minutes anyway.
Yeah. Clint
Good.
on so we can
Uh,
see you.
We were in Arizona when the pandemic began.
Clinton, do you want to put it on, turn your camera on so we can see you?
Well, I thought maybe it was on. Oh, how about that?
That's good.
It was first on. We were in Arizona in March. We got here in January, and then in February, Carrie flew middle February. Carrie flew back to Idaho because her niece broke a leg. She's in a wheelchair anyway, but she was in the hospital and at home and needed extra help, so she went and took care of her for 2 weeks. Got back the 1st of March, and we just recuperated from that when they said stay home. I was really looking forward to Pi Day at the ward. They had the ward down here has Pi Day on the 14th of March. And I thought that was probably the best way to celebrate our birthday, but they canceled it at the last minute. And then we did our 6 months in prison down here and went back to Idaho to sell our house and put it on the market and finally got it sold in November. But when we got to Idaho in Shelley in Bingham County, nobody was very concerned about wearing masks. It was really nice. Life was pretty much normal. But when we got back down to Arizona, Governor Doofus had everybody staying home again. So, but we have our own home and can stay home and we can go wherever we want. We just start the engine and go. But mostly we just drive our car over to Doug and Nikki's. We went there for Christmas. And then, but in the morning about 8 o'clock, we called Jonathan to see how their Christmas was. He and Heather called and he was showing us, they have a fireplace and he was showing us the stockings and he was showing us what they had done for decorations. And finally he says, see this little stocking? And he pulls it out this candy bar and it says Baby Andrus. So that's how they announced that they're having a baby.
Wow, good. Cool.
So that was the best Christmas present.
All right, fun.
But life has just gone on. Riley and Michaela were living in our house. They moved into with her folks. And then the day we left Idaho, they got the COVID-19 at their house. And her father never recovered from it. He was so sick and so weak. He just stayed in bed mostly and couldn't taste food and couldn't eat. And finally, after 3 or 4 weeks, they were monitoring his oxygen and it got so bad one morning they took him in the hospital and then they found out he had blood clots in his lungs and then his legs and pneumonia. And his heart wasn't functioning good. And before the week was out, they had him on dialysis and then he died on the 16th.
Wow, that's
So,
tough.
yeah, but they were praying and giving him blessings until finally his wife went to the temple and she said she realized that if it was her will, he would live. But if it was up to him and the Lord, he may not. So she decided that it couldn't be her choice.
All right, Clinton. Well, they have our condolences.
And thank you, everybody who prayed for him and some of us fasted for him, and they've done good. Well, they recognize the Lord's hand in their lives.
All right, thank you. Did you want to choose Ben or somebody different?
If we let Ben get out of it now, he might get out of it again later. Let's hear from Ben.
So can you all hear me?
Uh-huh.
Are you trying to get the video pulled off of YouTube?
Tim, I think that question is for you to answer. Are you saying you're going to talk so tough that they'll take it off?
Yeah, just joking.
Oh, okay. Well, this is supposed to be about the positive things we learned and not, ain't it awful?
Well, okay. We don't want to get pulled off, and then that'd be the answer, I guess.
Okay.
I haven't been hurt very much directly. In fact, I probably have more empathy now than I used to. As far as our church, everybody's church is shutting down, but our attendance at my church has quadrupled this year.
Because of Zoom? What do you mean, Ben?
Because
Carlos, Cindy, and
no, because they're at my church instead of the one in town.
Oh, because it's at your home?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, is there something else you're going to tell us?
Oh, I guess I forgot. Let's have Seneca tell hers.
She's not even listening.
Do you want to do it for her? She says, when you write to people and you think they're not listening, well, be patient and keep it up. She has a friend that she was writing about scripture study, and she didn't think she was answering, but when she sees her in person, she finds out she's very responsive and learning a lot. And the other thing she says is, when you write to people, keep a copy for yourself, because when they do write back, if you don't know what you wrote to them, you sometimes can never figure out what they're talking about or where they think you said this or that. But if you can read it after their response, then you can figure out where they're coming from and how they misinterpreted.
Okay. All right, thanks. You want to do someone?
Hey, Carla?
I don't have anything except this is the first time in 30 years I've been able to attend church with Ben.
Oh! Okay, thank you. You want to choose someone then?
Yeah, see who's on.
Sure, Louise, go for it.
Okay. What I learned was that this isn't necessarily positive, but Lisa came down with COVID symptoms the first Sunday in July, and she still has some. I'm not going to tell her whole story. I'm going to choose her and let her. But I think that I've had my mind opened to more of the reality of what kind of a world we live in, instead of having my head so much in the sand. I think there's been a lot of things that have come to surface, and I won't say any more than that because I might sound negative. So I'm going to choose Lisa. Unmute, Lisa.
Yep. Hi. As Mom said, I started COVID symptoms on Sunday, July 5th, and I tested positive. I took a test on the 7th and got the results back on the 9th, and they were positive. And I still have symptoms all the time, fatigue, shortness of breath, and etc. And I don't want to get too much into that part of it, because I want to keep this positive and with the topic of lessons that I've learned. And I've learned that I have a lot of kind, generous, compassionate family and friends. People have brought food to me several times. For the first 3 months, I didn't leave my house or have contact with another human being. Kimberly was living with me at the time I tested positive, and so was my grandson, Robbie. And our friend in our ward, who's a single gal, moved them both in with her and raised my family for me for it was almost, I think, 3 months to the day before I had face-to-face interaction with another human being. So I've learned that it's really important to have people and loved ones around us, and it's really difficult if we don't, especially if you're like excuse me, like me and an extrovert. I learned, this is pre-pandemic, but I learned the importance of the gospel in people's lives and seeing it change people's lives, and how staying in the gospel and can bring joy to people. My daughter Kimberly was baptized on January 20th, and she's told her story a couple months ago or so, but I think it's not an exaggeration at all to say there were 300 people attending her baptism. So I'm grateful that was before there were restrictions. And I see that as an evidence of how many people love and appreciate Kimberly. And she says, oh no, it's not about me. It's about people in the gospel and how people love the gospel and love the Savior, and they're celebrating that. And I agree with her about that as well. That it's just a testament, but I think it's a testament to her as well. And I've learned that it's important to follow the prophet and the leaders of the church and look back and see all of the things that had been implemented. Missionaries can call home every week. The home-centered church supported learning with the Come Follow Me, and ministering over home teaching. There's a lot of things over the past 3 to 5 years that have been already put in place that made the COVID lockdowns and shutdowns of church and missionaries not really knowing what was going on, because they were getting ready to call them home early, or they weren't getting them home ready to call them home early when other missionaries were, etc. That just all of these changes that had previously happened made things a lot more seamless when something that most of us didn't expect. Probably the prophet did, but on that global level change. So I've learned even more the importance of revelation and personal revelation. And I've learned stronger and deeper faith in the Lord and his timing. When I first got sick, the bishop texted me and asked if I needed anything. And this was early July, of course, so we were in still pretty strict regulations. And I said, well, I don't want to, expose anybody, but I'd like a blessing. And he said, well, unfortunately, we've been instructed that we can't do that. So I just decided to pray and have faith anyway and not worry about it. And a few weeks later, my son James said, oh, well, that's ridiculous. You need a blessing and I'm coming down. So he came down and we both wore masks and he gave me a blessing. And in the blessing, he said, he commanded the virus to leave my body. And during the blessing, he also said that I would fully recover with no long-term damage to my body. And it was so powerful. I really expected it to be take up thy bed and walk. And that when he was done, I could just get up and head for the hills. And I mean that literally, because prior to getting sick, I was walking 5+ miles a day in the hills behind my house. But obviously that didn't happen. And I talked to him later, it was a day or two later, and I said, I really appreciated your blessing and that you gave me, and the part of commanding the virus to leave my body was so powerful. I thought I would just be instantly better. And he said, well, when I said that, I thought so too, but then I wanted to bless you to recover quickly, and I was only able to bless you that you would recover fully. So I'm grateful for the faith that I have in that blessing and in the Lord, and knowing that the time will come, but just being still unsure of the timing, but trusting that blessing will be fulfilled and that this won't be something that I'll be dealing with for the rest of my life. I've also learned the greater empathy of people with chronic illness, greater compassion, greater resilience by seeing people around me as all of the, the physical and the health and the mental and the economic, all of those all of those challenges. And we are, as a people, strong and resilient. And I'm grateful for a prophet, and I always, of course, have been, but even more so. And I'll say one other quick thing. In April conference, President Nelson invited us to a worldwide fast on behalf of the pandemic, and asking that all of those effects, the pandemic could be eradicated, the economic situation could be remedied, and that life could get back to normal. Or I don't remember exactly what he had asked. And by the end of the day, somebody had created a group on Facebook, and within about a week, there were, I can't even remember how many thousands of people in it from all over the world, and people from just about every religion you could think of, not just members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but other Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, Hindu, etc., and even atheists were in that group saying, yeah, we'll all join together in this commemoration. And it was, I believe, going to be on Good Friday. So I've learned that God's children can come together for a worthy cause, and that our prophet truly is the prophet of the entire world and not just the members of our church. So that's good. And I know that the Lord is in charge, and just leaving my fate in his hands, and that we can still all care about each other despite complete differences of opinion on what's been going on this year. And the Lord is good. And I'll go ahead and end and pass it to Doug.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I think the first part of this year started out fairly normal, and then we had an earthquake in Salt Lake, and the temple was damaged. A lot of church buildings were damaged. And then we had the pandemic. Churches were closed, temples were closed. And I realized in the last days, perilous times can come, will come, have come, and that we're in the Lord's hand on his time frame, and we need to be living our life so that we're ready for challenges, no matter what they are and how they come. And that if we want peace and happiness and hope, it's the gospel, and the Savior is the source of that. There's a lot of things that we can be fearful of, but there's a lot of things that we can be joyful of. I have become appreciative of personal relationships and family relationships. My church calling is working at a rest home, a care center. For the last few years, we started out, it was brand new. The first time we went there, I think there might have been 15 people there. Now there's over 50. But in the time that I've served there, there's been a turnover in people. Over 100 of them have died. I learned when you're talking to someone, visiting with someone, given a priesthood blessing, those moments are choice, and you don't know when that person where you'll see them again or not. Many times you talk to them, and you get the feeling that the end is near for them, and it's even more precious the time you spend with them, and the conversations that you have, and the things that are communicated. I've learned that the earth is full of beauty. I appreciate more the birds, the wildlife, the sunsets. I've gone for drives and walks in the surrounding mountains, new trails, new streams, new lakes that I've seen that have been very, very beautiful and uplifting. I went to a new location of Utah that I hadn't seen before, and drove through the corner of Colorado that was so beautiful during the fall when the leaves were out, and saw things I'd never seen before, and just was grateful for the beauty of the land, and for the knowing that no pandemic could be bad news forever, that good times were here also, and better times were promised in the future. Louise, if you had your turn.
I had my turn.
Tim, have you had your turn?
Nope.
Go ahead.
Okay. The main lessons I've learned have already been said, kind of what Doug said and Paul and Lisa about having a prophet. And it seems like, I don't know if he knew this was coming or not, but it definitely seems like the Lord knew it was coming and prepared people for focusing on the Sabbath and focusing on having church together with your family and studying the gospel. So when church was closed and people had church at home, it was not that big of a deal and not as hard of a transition, it seemed. That's probably the biggest thing I've learned that I appreciate. I've always heard the phrase, if you are, I guess it's in the Doctrine and Covenants, if you are prepared, ye shall not fear. And I learned that if ye are not prepared, ye will fear, based on my visits to grocery stores, Walmart and Costco, when people were fighting over rolls of toilet paper. And so with that, and then the earthquake was a little bit of a wake-up call for me to get prepared. So I got a first aid kit and clothes and food storage and water and stuff like that I hadn't had before. So that gives me more peace of mind that I've made some preparations. My life hasn't changed a whole lot. I've still spent time with friends and stuff like that, except I did have a trip to Hawaii that got canceled and a trip to Iceland that got canceled. So I learned that I need to be more like my cousin Amber, who can still figure out how to travel during coronavirus and go to some tropical island, have it to herself. I think another good thing that has come is the family phone calls that we've done and being able to connect with cousins and family that I don't talk to much, and been able to, record some and document some for posterity, for people to go back and watch videos of all of you. So that's about it for me. I will pass it to my sister, Kathy.
How did I know that was coming?
Because Amber already told me she didn't want to turn.
Oh, all right. That works. Are we doing lessons we learned this year or lessons because of COVID?
Either one.
Okay. Well, I will say that when COVID hit and the shutdowns happened, I'm very grateful that Tommy and I both were able to keep working every day. We did not have any loss of income. But I will have to say, trying to do school at home with my kids and still trying to fit in work was a big challenge. And our stake president had sent out a letter in an email saying, oh, take time that's, less stressful and everything to reflect and do all these things. And I'm thinking, I'm more busy than I've ever been in my whole life. But Tommy got COVID right after Thanksgiving. And so we did have to quarantine. So our family was stuck here together again. And at that point, I was taking care of my family, and I didn't work as much. I maybe got 1 hour of work done a day. And so that was, my time to really refocus and invest in my family and my kids and stuff. And I think that was good for me to help me realize that, some other things maybe aren't as important as they seemed. I would say another thing that I learned this year is not to take anything for granted, especially health. When Lisa first got sick and she just had some chills and fever and whatever, it didn't sound too bad. I thought, well, I'm going to go purposely get it from her so I can get it over with and be done. But then she never got better and never got better and never got better. I thought, well, I'm glad I didn't try. Anyway, and also, not to take for granted that I have enough toilet paper in the house, or that we have enough food storage, or that my kids would eat it if we had to live on it, Anyway, but another thing that I learned this year is when I went to Brent's wedding, Ken or Jim or both, or maybe even Doug also commented, we never would have thought to have a wedding in this barn. And they talked about shearing sheep and, castrating calves and all the things they'd done in that barn. And so I think the Andruses pulled it off well. And I think the younger generation loved that the wedding was there. But then the big kicker was we had sacrament meeting there the next day. And I'm sure none of them ever imagined having church in that barn either. But it made me think, that barn is just a structure, and it shouldn't be judged by its prior uses. And it's like people, you've got to not just judge them by past experience. You've got to be able to give them that chance to become something else or serve a better purpose than you had expected before. Anyway, so that's what I've learned this year. I'm going to pass it to Nola.
Nola.
Is she on camera?
Okay, there I am. Sorry, I have a problem with technology, and it took me a minute to unmute myself.
Okay.
Did you pick me because you saw me pounding stuff? I'm fixing dinner while I'm listening. I have to say, I resonate with so much of what all of you have already said about this year's a living prophet, going and seeing things in nature, because that's where we could go without restrictions. So all of those things, and the other thing, I didn't learn it. I just had a chance to practice loving others, no matter what their point of view was. It was surprising to me how having a pandemic divided so many people with opinions and ideas about what it was and why and all of those things. But to just be able to love everyone, no matter what their thought processes were, and see the value of everyone. Another thing that I have appreciated is how, because of a pandemic, we are more connected as an extended family. I never would have imagined that. I just got home from a little trip with Callie and saw in my email inbox that Ben was reminding us about the family newsletter, and I completely forgot about our holiday newsletter because I've been connected with you. Even though I haven't been able to attend many of these, been watching it after the fact. and that we've been connected. I've appreciated that so much. I love my extended family. Thank you. Another thing I've learned is like Tim being prepared. I was more prepared than I realized, and I did not fear. And I continue to not have fear. I understood the nature of how, and as it went along, how devastating this virus can be. But I personally have not been afraid. And I've also I have really watched out for my children, for their mental well-being. And so Callie and I've had some opportunities. We just got back from taking a trip, which they were asking us not to do, but it was not necessary, but it was helpful for our emotional and mental well-being. So I was willing to take that kind of a risk.
Where did you go, Nola?
We went to San Antonio, Texas, and we experienced the river walk in San Antonio, and we rode roller coasters for a whole day, 3 days ago, in at the Six Flags amusement park, and it was a great experience. But also in that, knowing that there are many who suffer being isolated, but for me personally, it was a great, that downtime was such a really rejuvenating and relaxing time, and I've appreciated that. I have no idea who hasn't spoken.
I'll tell you. Colleen, Lawana, Amber, Dawn, and Lauren.
Well, I'll go right at the top. Let's hear from Colleen.
Colleen and Ken. I assume that Colleen and Ken are both on their telephone numbers here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nola. Ken and Colleen, are you able to talk to us? That's Colleen's phone number, but
Maybe somebody can tell them how to get off mute on the phone.
They're not muted. They're not
Well,
muted.
don't rely on me to do that.
I think it's *6.
Okay, well, since they're not responding, Nola, there's Lawana, Amber, Dawn, and Lauren.
Let's go with Lawana then next on the list.
Okay.
And there's Ionio.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And Ivan.
Okay. Who did Nola just choose?
Lawana.
Oh, Lawana, can you talk to us? Huh. Okay, I don't know.
Okay, who's next, Dawn?
Uh-huh.
All right, there you go.
Okay, Dawn, your turn.
Okay, I don't have a lot to say, but one way the pandemic affected me is that I actually ended up losing my job as a project manager. So that was kind of devastating, because even though I wasn't loving my job, at least it was an income. So what happened at my work is that the office manager position came open at the same time. So they allowed me to transition into it. And although I was petrified because my boss, the president of the company, gave me a 2-month trial period because for some reason he thought that I wasn't going to be able to do it. He didn't have much faith in me, which was kind of sad and kind of funny at the same time, that I was doing a much harder job and he didn't think I could do a job that was supposedly quite a bit easier. Anyway, I passed my 2-month trial period, so woohoo. But it's a lot less income. So I have my job application in at some other libraries, which I'm hoping will work out for me. But along with what Lisa said, I became, right when the pandemic hit and President Nelson announced that we were going to have a worldwide fast on April 10th, I was fortunate enough to join this group called the April 10th Worldwide Fast. And now they've changed the name to Worldwide Unified. And they do have a lot of different people of a lot of different faiths, like Lisa said. And the one thing she didn't mention is that there's a bunch of Wiccans. And that was one of the funniest things to me, that all these Wiccans were going to fast and pray for the pandemic to be over. But what I've loved about being part of this group is there an echo?
Yeah, it's from Dad's computer, Dawn. You're getting too close to that.
Oh, Dad said he thought he shut his off.
No, it's not.
I'll mute him.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Anywho, so one of the things I've loved about being part of this Worldwide Unified group is that people are constantly asking for fasting and prayers for a variety of illnesses and ailments and financial woes. And it's just made me so grateful for my life and all the blessings I've been blessed with, even though I feel like I've had a trial or two, that there's people that are so much worse off. And it's been a privilege to pray for them and offer words of encouragement, etc. I've loved being part of this group and it's apparent in the things people say and ask for, how different their faiths are and how they worship, but yet we're all coming together to try to help each other out. So that's been an eye-opener. And I guess I'll second, third, fourth, admit that I really enjoyed the beauties of this earth, going for walks and rides with my parents. And I had an opportunity to visit Lake Tahoe with my mom a couple months ago. And it was just beautiful. So glad that we live in an area or even can drive to areas that
You went
rejuvenate
to
the
Lake
spirit.
Powell? I thought you went to Tahoe.
Oh, did I say Powell? I meant Lake Tahoe.
Oh, okay.
You
Yeah,
said
Lake
Tahoe.
Tahoe.
It's just
Oh,
her.
okay.
It's just your lazy accent.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh, okay.
There's my lazy ear.
Anyways. That was a highlight of this past year. And one of the things I felt so grateful for too is with the whole pandemic, I constantly worry that we're nearing the last days and that things are going to get exponentially worse and that I'm going to have to dig my own latrine. And so I talked to my dad about it. He's like, oh, I mean, if you're worried about that, don't worry about that, because he's used an outhouse when he was little and it wasn't that bad. But I've been so grateful for indoor plumbing and that we're going through a pandemic with indoor plumbing and hot showers rather than having to take a bath every Saturday with water heated on the stove and having to use an outhouse. So I guess that's all that I have to offer. I don't know who else is next.
Okay, Don, there's Lauren and Ivan and Ionio.
Okay, I choose Ivan.
Okay.
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 I don't have much, I guess. In January, one of my goals was to hang out with my brother more. I saw him at work every day, of course, but didn't actually get to socialize with him much. So I thought I was going to have like a monthly game night or something. So we've been playing video games online, and that's been a lot of fun, even though we can't see each other in person. But other than that, kind of what people have said, I'm grateful that I have a job I can do from home. And that's about it. So I guess I'll pick on Lauren now.
Thank you.
Yeah, that sounds just like you. Pick on me.
Nothing new there.
Going on 40 years, I guess. So as far as well, yeah, 2020 hasn't been the greatest year in general for most people, but it's been not too bad for us. We haven't been closely affected by illness, like no one in our direct families. I mean, there have been extended ones, so just none of our siblings or parents or things like that. Although for all we know, we've had COVID 3 times. I don't know. At the beginning, when there was the big toilet paper scare, we realized that, as prepared as we were, we weren't planning, an extra month ahead. We only had our large pack of toilet paper, and so when that started wearing down, we're like, hope it gets better, and it did settle down enough that we could go back to the store as normal and not be rationed as much. Let's see, positive things. Oh yeah, being an introvert, it was nice that fewer people were trying to make me get out and do stuff. So that's been kind of nice. Although I do recognize that for the other half of people in the world, this has been really hard to be tied down. At work, we did technically see Ivan almost every day, but we didn't, since we got moved to different floors last year, would usually only be a little bit at lunchtime, and not always then either. But so the weekly game night has been pretty fun, because realistically, not going into work means that I don't have to deal with all those people, but I also don't talk a lot, like actually using my voice, which is, not that big of a deal, except I guess it's a healthy thing. It's a healthy exercise to actually talk to people occasionally. So game night has been useful for that as well. One of the coolest things that I've learned just in the last couple months is that I'm related to a galaxy. I hadn't realized that. So the modifications to the church format has been kind of fun. A little frustrating, I suppose, but it's been okay. One thing I have enjoyed is the Knapp Andrus phone call. It was once we got settled down and I got into the routine of just planning for it at approximately the same time every week, it got a lot easier to say, okay, we'll have other things done by then and I'll get to go join that. And that's been pretty neat. I've been able to enjoy that and know some of my extended family a little bit better. So it's been a rough year. in a lot of ways, but my family's been pretty okay. I am appreciating that I have a job that now that it's required to, is willing to let us work from home. Although it's kind of the first time that I ever appreciated being in the office, because I used to always hate all of the extra noise and distraction. But when you have kids home from school that don't like being at school or being home from school, you find out that the noise and distractions at home can be much worse than in the office. So I suppose that's all I have, and I've forgotten who else is on the list.
Amber, Tim said Amber said she didn't want to turn, but Amber, do you want to turn anyway?
I can say something.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I wasn't planning on it before, but I, like Nola said, I also have learned my ability to love regardless of very differing opinions. So that has been something I've learned is a trait that needs to be continuously practiced, not just a one and done. But I also have been very grateful for the, like they said, the nature. So unlike some of you, this has been a huge disruption in my life. I realized I'm much more social than I thought I was before this, but so I'm very grateful to be able to live by the Capitol where there was plenty of green space, lawn space, etc., parks, etc., to go in. But one of my goals for 2020 was to explore more in Utah. And I was glad that I was able to do that and go to national parks and Antelope Island and Spiral Jetty and things like that that I hadn't known where I was going to fit in the time. Like Tim, I had a lot of stuff canceled. I was going to go to Germany to see a play that they've been putting on for thousands of years to celebrate the town not getting the plague. That was canceled by the world getting the plague. So that was a little disappointing, but among a bunch of other stuff. But I was fortunate to still be able to do some other things, but I'm grateful for this call as well. Just having that fun connection unexpectedly in a strange world. So that's been a really cool experience to have, to see some of the cousins and family that I don't get to catch up with on a regular basis. So, and yeah, that's all. So I think it's Ionio's turn. Is he still on? Yes.
I think so. Okay.
So you guys have left me here to think about what I'm going to say all through this whole thing, and I appreciate that opportunity to gather my thoughts. When the prophet announced we were going to shift to a more home-centered, church-supported program a few years ago, I remember thinking, are we going to end up having sacrament meeting in our homes because we can't have it anywhere else? And being in the military, I worried that it was going to be due to large geopolitical movements and war, and it was going to be brutal. And what a relief when it turned out to just be COVID-19. And that's been a blessing and a testimony to me as to our Heavenly Father is in charge and he knows what's coming. And if we just listen to the prophet and follow him, we may not be happy and it may not be comfortable, but we'll be okay. So I've really come to appreciate that this year. I've come to appreciate my wife's good cooking. It's a lot harder to maintain good physical fitness when you're just sitting right there in the kitchen doing your work, and it's hard to turn away from that good food. I've really appreciated these phone calls, an opportunity to get to know some of you a little bit better. I didn't have an opportunity when I was younger, and living out here in Ohio, a long ways from everybody. Sometimes it's really hard to get to know people and to make it to a family reunion. So I've really appreciated these. So I guess those are the big lessons that I've taken from this year.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Ionio.
giving me an opportunity.
Thank you. Now, we still haven't heard from Colleen or Lawana.
Or Ruth.
Oh, is Ruth on? I don't see Ruth.
Calibro
Okay.
family's on.
Oh, okay.
Lana's
Well, let's see. Let's see. Colleen, are you there? Going, gone. Lawana, are you there?
Luana's gone.
Okay. All right. I guess it's Ruth's turn then. Ruth, are you there? Okay, while Ruth gets on or something, I need to talk to you folks. Now, we started out with a phone call.